Have you been affected by sad videos online?
Do you watch depressing movies over and over?
Soldiers returning to their families. Puppies without a home. Old people.
I've been feeling like I need to cry for weeks. I want to let it out, but I don't know how.
I love watching sad videos when I'm feeling down, but I never have anyone to send them to.
If you have any sad videos that you'd like to share, send them to the email below.
You may be entitled to a discount code for our show on June 15th. Good grief.
Act now.
Cry later.
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to. Cry if I want to. Cry if I want to. You would cry too if it happened to you. Oh, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to.
Poquito podcast. Poquito podcast.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Ryan Reyes,
I'm Rick Macias.
And I am Josh, the producer.
and we're without Dominic again. Well, I'm sorry. We miss him so much.
Come back.
Please, no, but
We need to get a cardboard cut of him at this point.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
just to like
definitely.
have. We should just get a mannequin, like a chest up mannequin thing, and just put like his mustache and facial hair on it.
And some
like,
mustard stains.
Yeah, mustard stains all over it.
It's all over.
Yeah,
All
he would
over.
hate
Just
that
use
so
mustard
much.
as the glue.
But yeah.
For his mustache.
His
Mustard mustache.
Mustache.
Mustached. There's
Interesting.
You guys will figure it out. Figure out the pun and we'll use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the comments, please.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk about, you brought it up, but it's been reminding me of just so many things that I've been coming across lately. But when you're talking about like Latinos and business in America, because I've been noticing a lot of like the sort of evolution of like hustle culture. We did do like a hustle culture episode last year, but there's just like so many other things that we never really discussed that I feel like are prevalent in the younger generation in general, but specifically like Latinos. Like I think the common things you think of when you think of Latinos hustling are like vendors, landscaping, construction, stuff like that. But there's so many things that they've always been a thing, but more recently I feel like even younger people are getting into it. Like I have a family member who started a farm in his backyard. And he's starting it from scratch. And I remember growing up with like a lot of first gen Mexican American families would do stuff like that. Like they'd keep chickens or they'd grow their own like mint and cilantro. And I haven't seen it in a while. And it's funny because he's like me. He's like third generation. He just took it upon himself. And I think a lot of it just has to do with people adjusting. Like he keeps a chicken coop and he's starting to farm, and his wife started to learn how to make bread from scratch. And it's mostly just like to save on groceries. But it did remind me of like that sort of that aspect of the close community that Latinos had when I was growing up. Because it started to remind me of like there was always a lady in every apartment building that was like a seamstress. Like she would repair clothes, she would stitch things for you. There's a lady that my stepmom buys food from, and she's just this lady that makes food in her house. Like it's not a vending business. She just makes like you tell her what you want, and you send her the amount that you agree upon, and the next day she'll bring you lunch. You know what I mean? It's like paying an abuelita to be an abuelita.
Yeah.
that's
She's
funny.
like, yeah, I'm good at this.
Yeah, right? It's so funny.
Yeah. I was just to tag on to that. I grew up in a church, and when I was young, they used to do a thing called Missionary Day. And I don't know why they called it that, because it was just all of the different abuelitas from the different... Because there was a lot of different communities. It wasn't just Mexican.
Right.
There was people from all the kinds of different countries. And so they would just set up, like, it would be like a little food fair, basically. And they would just set up, all the different grandmas would cook. and you could eat food from all these different.
Damn, you think they were like throwing
backgrounds.
shade at each other? Like,
For sure, for sure. They would even compete for who was number one.
yeah.
Who would do the
That's
best
so
in sales. And it was always be USA, baby. USA Latinos would always get down.
But that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so great, though. Yeah. I got to eat a lot of different food when I was young because of that. So I thought it was different. But they were selling it, you know? They were hustling that. And everyone's making some money. It's just a part of it.
Yeah, I feel like, and it's so funny because I feel like it's definitely died down, but there's still people who paint this picture of like the lazy Mexican and like saying that I think the idea comes from us that they're trying to perpetuate is we're lazy because we're not finding work through regular channels.
Right.
And it's like, have you seen what they do? You know what I mean? Like, they'll figure something out. Latinos will figure. Like, I knew people that figured out where like supply stores were for restaurants and like liquor stores, and they would buy from the same places because some of them are walk-ins. You can just put an order in online, walk in, and pay for it, and then they would set up like pop-up markets. You know what I mean? They would sell stuff at like soccer games, or they would just
Right.
straight up. I had a neighbor who straight up ran like a candy store in his driveway.
Yeah, that laziness thing like doesn't make any sense. It's one of those things that's like these people are marginalized and kept out arm's length from certain opportunities,
Yeah.
and then when they like have to cut corners to achieve these things, then they're like, oh, really? You're not going to do it the right way?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you didn't let me.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you going to give me a loan?
Yeah, exactly.
But that does remind me of what you were saying before the podcast about that specific concept about like Latinos trying to have functioning businesses and being set up to fail, kind of.
Yeah, because like I was looking into it more. Some context is like I've been doing manufacturing for a long time, and I'm trying to do some of that on the side because I'm pretty good at it, and I want to learn how to make some money. Maybe make stuff for the pod or whatever, right? Maybe make merch for people. But the more I look into this stuff, the more I realize I don't see any Latinos in like the maker space or like small creator spaces. And like I'm literally, I know maybe this is bad searching, maybe I could search better, but like Latino woodworking, Latino like machinery or like CNC shop stuff, and I found like one guy on accident from that was doing screen printing because I was looking into that too, and you know he does a good job. I think he goes under Milo Prince on YouTube. I think he's based out of Chicago, and you know I was excited because he was going into depth on how even the simple parts of screen printing has a lot of layers, literally, but depth and like detail, just like even like fading colors, and then you start anyway. Go watch his channel. But if you're interested in screen printing, but it just makes me realize like like it's not even just a representation thing. It's like it's almost like just an accessibility in general.
Yeah.
And I heard some things were like the reality is Latino small businesses and stuff are increasing. It's a trending upwards. But I heard this one thing where they said just businesses in general, when they're created, like 50% of them fail in the first 2 years. This is just a general overall statistic. And then I heard that 90% of Latino businesses fail within 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know, people perceive these statistics how they want, but I also heard that a lot of Latino small business owners can't even get a loan for $50,000. Which is like not a lot for a small business. It's really not.
Yeah.
Like, and there's less accessibility viewed as a risk, and it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, well, there are risks, so we're not going to take a risk, and then they have no in.
Right.
They have less access to these opportunities. They have less chance to develop financial literacy, and they even do. And they run these businesses, like you're saying, on the side, like pop-up markets or like street vending, and they have licenses. A lot of people Like, anyway, there's a whole another layer to that, but it's increasing, but it's still very much a thing, or where there's not a lot of accessibility to even get into these markets.
Right.
Right.
And it's like another thing too. Like I think it's hard to find other people who have done that. Like you were saying, you're searching for Latino business or like Latino makers,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Because like we don't really self-identify as. Well, I mean, like we don't. What do you call it when you announce yourself?
I think identify.
Identify, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't like identify as Latino. Well, no, because that means because I perceive myself as Latino.
Yeah.
But I don't always like anything I've ever made. I've never marked
Yeah.
that I was a Latino maker. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
because I got a laser cutter machine. I have 3D printers. I don't put Latino lasers.
Latino lasers. Yeah, yeah,
It sounds
exactly.
dumb.
Yeah. It's like.
But do I have to? Like, I don't.
I mean, it might be smart
Yeah.
because obviously you're searching for it, so maybe somebody else is.
I
you know?
mean, I'm in a very niche like
That's
point
what I'm
of view.
saying, yeah.
But it's also like, why is this hard to find? I shouldn't be struggling to find creators and makers like this.
I have this. I mean, this. I don't know if this will be left in, but I have this theory about like more people are Latino than they think, and like a lot of people like just think they're white,
Yeah.
and really they're actually Latino, and
Yeah.
and they just don't know. You know what I mean? Because there's I have family members who grew up in like Colorado and stuff like that, and they're more light skinned, you know what I mean? And they're just better around white people, and they just had no idea that they didn't even know about Latino stuff. And we're talking years ago now.
Yeah, yeah.
But they grew up not even really understanding that they were Latinos, you know what I mean? Just grew up being like, just like an American kid.
Yeah, they're
you know
like,
what I
sometimes
mean?
people are weird to me, but
Yeah, basically.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And like my grandpa, you know, he was like a greaser and stuff like that. So he would like work on cars and like, I don't know.
Actually,
different.
there's like a huge thing where, like on the West Coast, the greaser movement was a lot of Latinos. Like there was a huge overlap between Chicano and
Exactly.
greaser.
But then when you look back on those times, like most of the people that we see are white. And, you know, that's one of those things. Like, it's like how like Egyptians in old movies, Egyptians are white
Yeah.
people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think we have that same thing for Latino people here, where like a lot of the like classic ideas we have about Americana that are white we're actually like Latino people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Marilyn Monroe, like
Exactly,
like even little things
exactly.
like it's not very little, but it's like not very acknowledged until recently.
Yeah, yeah.
And
One of my favorite ones to joke about is Tom Cruise. I claim Tom Cruise as Latino.
yeah,
Just because his last name's Cruise. Like it's a part of our culture to be like, yo, take it easy. Like don't
Yeah.
don't
Don't
stand
bring
out.
attention to
Yeah.
yourself.
yeah, and I think that's literally what I was thinking about. It's like because I've struggled with that heavily of
same.
like don't talk about it, be about. Even though I used to just talk and not do anything, but don't talk about it, be about it. Like that's what my uncle taught me. Like you just do the work. And it shows for itself. Like, yeah, but that's also how you get exploited.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's also
Yeah.
a thing of like, I think it's especially for Latinos where we don't have to claim the identity until it's imposed on us. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us for the longest, especially like third, fourth, fifth generation Mexican Americans, they'll not have to confront it for so long. Like I grew up surrounded by Latinos, so it was very normalized for me. I didn't have to confront the idea that I was Latino, that I was a minority until leaving that environment. You know what I mean? I was going to school, I was like gaming online a lot. I was interacting with larger majority white people crowds for the first time, and that's, you know, once that bubble is broken, you can't unsee it.
Right.
And I think that's like a transition for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was like, yeah, that is true. But for me, it's the opposite. Like I grew up in a wide. It was still a little diverse, but I grew up in a wider space where it was like, no, I'm Latino. My family's Latino. They're immigrants, and I grew up in an area where it's just all the teachers were white.
Right.
Everyone was pretty. There's a lot of white people, and their point of view was first. So I always like grew up in the context of like being thoughtful of their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, and I think there's also going back to what I was saying. That experience is kind of like the other side of that coin of like they won't treat you different until it has to be confronted.
Yeah.
And that's so
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
because
yeah.
I have like a third side of that coin where I'm like, I was raised in a primarily Latino community when I was young. And when I moved out, I moved to an area that was well mixed. And like there was a same amount of like black people, white people, Asians, Latinos. Like we were an even mix. Like even my teachers, like even when you just said that about your teachers, like I was like, nope. My science teacher was black. My computer teacher was white. My Spanish teacher was Mexican.
Right.
Or really, she was Panamanian. But like even my friend group, like there was one of each of us. You know, people you would comment on us like you guys are hanging out like
A United Nations.
yeah, it looks like a
Yeah.
school book.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because it was like me, a white guy, a Vietnamese kid, my black friend. You know what I mean? And like we had a diverse group of people. So I didn't come out of Latino-ness straight to like a white world. I was like, we are red and yellow, black and white.
That's how my friend groups were. My friend groups are like that, but the faculty was like
Yeah.
there'd be like Latino, there'd be black people, but it was like
Primarily.
majority white faculty.
And probably the same for me, majority.
Yeah.
I did have one of those white teachers that was like a Latino, but just looked white and would be like, oh, you think I'm white?
Uh-huh.
I had a teacher like that. That was like, wrong, I'm actually Mexican. Kind of a guy.
Wrong. You could still be white.
yeah. No, in those times it was,
No, I know.
Yeah.
that was the early 2000s.
Yeah.
In those times. It's so weird to say.
I mean, it
Past
was
the
like, it was
millennium.
so different
Yeah.
when I was in high school. It was so different.
was.
Yeah.
Like just post 9/11, you know what I mean? It was a very different world than we're living in right now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. When I was a kid, I used to be like, how different could it be, Dad? Like when they would say stuff like that about the 70s, you know what I
Right.
mean? And I'm like, yeah, like we're not like those old times. And now it's like,
The old times are back.
Yeah, it happens so fast.
Yeah, I do
it really
think
is true. I work my
that-
pants.
I do think that that's a good point that I remember not being a part of, but like that was a part of my environment of like the 90s and 2000s were an aura where visually they wanted to seem represented, so there was always one of each, but also there until I want to say like the late 2000s when there was a surge for this. If you could get away with not standing out as a minority, it was not encouraged, but like that was how you kind of
It's
No,
for
it's
sure.
so-
like-
and you were either in the niche, like in the Latino Kings of Comedy, it's kind of like
Right.
in a group, or you changed your name to like Ned, which I
mean,
know.
I mean, we're from a generation where like my name is Joshua, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're Ricky and Ryan, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But that's not my name.
well, right, my name either.
yeah.
No, my name's Ryan.
Yeah.
There's a story behind my name. It's actually an abbreviation for Ricardo Angelica, which is my parents' names. It's RIAN.
I actually just found out the story behind my name, which is that my mom named me Joshua. And that while she was in the hospital, my dad went to the people and changed my name behind her back to Josue.
Really?
Yeah, and she was very upset. But they left it. She just
How's
took
it spelled?
Unfortunately, it's spelled. I mean, I don't say my name, so my name might be getting bleeped all these times, but it's spelled Josu, like J. You know what? I'll just say it. It's Josue. It's Josue.
Yes.
It's
pretty common.
But when I was a kid and I would have like substitute teachers, they always thought I was like a Southern girl. They'd be like Josu, and I'd be like, it's me, and they'd be like,
Dinner's ready.
yeah.
They would always get my name wrong, and I was like, it was frustrating for me because for most of my elementary school like years, there was a kid in every single one of my classes named Brian Reyes. Our names were spelled exactly the same, but his had a B in the front.
Right.
They never got his name wrong.
That would always happen when kids were named Brian and Ryan, though. I would never know which one it was.
Bran and Brent. Someone
Yeah.
get rid of the T. Someone I don't.
Or add the T.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard.
I always like criticize parents for that. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you it's not like you grew up in the 30s or something where
Right.
like it was a whole different time. Like you're from the 80s. Like you know how kids are.
Act like
with-
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're on coke.
Yeah, I know. Give your kid a normal name. Don't spell your kid's name all crazy. I mean, I understand like holding on to tradition and having traditional
Right.
names. That's fine. But sometimes, like, I don't know, man. Give your kid a nickname or something, and let them take their traditional name when they're older.
I'm fine with names. I'm just complaining that like sometimes it really is hard, and I'm sorry that it is hard sometimes. But man, when there's two people with similar names, like I'm gonna butcher this for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
For
Or
a
1 and 2,
while-
you get 1 and 2'd. I've been like a part of a Josh 1, Josh 2 situation.
Yeah. In my school, we had like 4 Eddies. And they went through the same schools for a
That's
while.
funny. Ed, and Eddie and Eddie.
Double D.
And Eduardo.
Eduardo, Edmund. I always think it's funny when there's like a passed down name, so it's like everyone in that family has the same first name.
I have some of those in my family. Like half of my my mom's side of the family are all named Joe.
Right.
Everyone's named Joe. All like there's like 7, 8 Joes. It's crazy. I'm like, why is everyone the least creative family? It's like so uncreative to me.
That's how I name all my characters in World of Warcraft. It's all this derivative one name.
I know that sounds that's super funny. I know it sounds contradicting to what I just said about having a normal name.
Yeah.
But I'm like that's too far though. You gotta
Yeah,
like, find someone somewhere in the middle.
Figure it out. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I think George Foreman did that.
Oh, yeah, like
he was
all
like
of his
a bunch
sons are
of
named
Georges.
George.
And I think his daughters are named like Georgina.
Yeah.
God, it just seems so unfair to the kid to me.
Look, I get it. You made a lot of money with that grill, but I guess you're going to pay for a lot of name changes later. But
There was these siblings that went to my school, and one of them was named Aaron, and one of them was named Epiphania.
they're siblings.
Siblings,
It'd be funny if
That I
they
do
were.
have an issue with.
for the sake of the story.
It'd be funny if they were twins. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder
dude.
who the favorite
It's like
Epiphania.
yeah, the
obviously.
one that they gave the cool name to, right? That's the thing. Is like I used to think it was a cool name, but also I used to be like, why would your parents do this to you? Is it what is it? Is it a flower or something? I don't know. It sounds crazy.
Yeah,
It sounds like foliage.
Look, we knew we were having 2, but in our head we only wanted 1. This whole
I feel
time we
like-
only wanted 1.
That reminds me, it is a thing. Parents are so weird about the concept of children. It's like you have to acknowledge that this is gonna be like an adult someday.
Exactly.
Because there's parents who are like, well, you named the last one.
I was just about to say that was there probably the situation.
Yeah.
One parent got to choose one name. Yeah.
The dad named Aaron.
yeah.
She's like, "Can you think of a good one?" He's like, A names.
Two A's. There's 2 A's.
Oh.
It's the very first name that comes up.
I'm creative.
That's hilarious. I knew somebody who would named a company based on that logic of being like is the start of the alphabet. It'll be the first thing that comes up in the searches.
Yeah. AA.
Nailed
Double chances.
it. Yeah.
The mom reads books. Epiphania.
Yeah.
That's like literature.
And that's also true because like dudes are kind of just like whatever about stuff, but every girl I've ever heard say like the name of her kid, it's always some crazy like fusion of 2 names or like
Yeah, like Khaleesi Ariana Grande.
yeah, basically that's all their favorite singers.
And their favorite actress. I think I've seen too much of that. Like, I'm gonna be embarrassed to see people name their kids all these anime characters.
Right,
for
it's
them.
for sure gonna
Maybe it'll
happen,
end
right?
up fine, but it's like they're not. That's not a Lelouch.
Right.
No, that's very niche anime reference nowadays. I'm old.
I don't know it anyway, so I wouldn't know any of your.
Just imagine meeting like a Sashomaru. A little Mexican kid named Sashomaru.
That would be hilarious.
Sashomaru Aiden Gonzalez.
So funny. Aiden is hilarious. Yeah. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure that kid's out there, and he's like, they're talking about me.
But bringing it back a little bit.
yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
we
we
riffed-
got way up.
We
riffed
went
a
way
little-
up,
we
but
riffed
bringing
a
it
little
back,
hard.
we were talking about like Latinos feeling the need to, what's the word? acclimate,
Yeah.
assimilate, and how that can be part of this whole thing of identity. Like, it was something you were saying specifically where, like, even if you do look up Latino blank, there's no guarantee that that'll work because the individual might not, like, people just don't think to put,
Yeah.
I'm a
What-
carpenter and I'm Latino. Like,
Right.
they just put
What's the
carpenter.
word? There's a word for it, right? For like declaring.
Nationality. I don't know.
Self-identifying? I don't know.
Yeah. Self-identifying is always what I want to say too.
But I don't know.
But to me, I think that's become a new term.
Yeah, it's also like I get it. Like there's a whole George Lopez show episode about like where he works at a job that I work at, like a machine shop, and they make parts for like airplanes and all this stuff. And I remember there's one episode where he was going to get this job at this like higher level like manufacturing company. Like I think he was even going to be, because George Lopez was like the foreman in his shop, I think, if I remember the show correctly, and he got an opportunity to make a lot more money to be like at this like higher level company. Like maybe, I don't even know if he's like going to be an engineer or whatever, but then he found out he was just a token hire. And I know there's a good argument to like not take that stuff. Like they were just like, oh, it's just going to make us look good. We're not actually hiring you because you're talented. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to take that job.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to take that either. But we also take that logic and feeling. It doesn't just end there. We take it like, well, I'm never going to lean with that. I'm only going to be what I have to offer. And then we're like, but also I'm never going to promote myself.
Right.
I'm never
Yeah.
going to put myself first or talk myself up. I'm just going to do the work. And it's like, I get that and I've done that, but I've just lost money doing that because I took it too far the other way.
Yeah.
I think there's a middle ground here, but it's like I'm not telling people what to do, but I want people to consider it because I've wasted time and I've lost out on money because I didn't want to have to ask or push. I wanted to just show.
Right. This kind of hits a little close to home for me because this is kind of a thing I do.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, in one side I agree, and then the other side it's like something I do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
okay to just rely on your talent and never tell anyone about anything you do.
Yeah.
But no, I totally understand. I've actually been trying to break out of it, and like that's why I've been taking my camera around and like trying to make those like things and trying to do the stuff that I know I'm good at and show other people instead of just do the stuff I know I'm good at and like hide it in the hard drive, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Literally stuff like that. Like more and more, I just start talking because, like, you know, it's not like I'm making money off the stuff I'm doing on the
Right.
side. I do comedy right now mostly, but it's like I'm talking to any chance I get. I'm not beating people over the head with it, but I'm like talking with people about it. Like I did a show like a few weeks ago, and this guy talked about fabrication. I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
And I just was like, hey, I do this, you do that. I can't do what you do, but I also do this. And it was just a conversation. And it's like, we know why we're talking, but that's a connection. And this is stuff like I've had to like force myself to learn because I was taught not to do that.
Right.
Not to like impose, not to like, because it's also like showing off, right? Like there's
Yeah, it
also
kinda
this
is.
energy, I don't know if it's inherently in our community, like, oh, you think you're better. Like when you start trying to promote yourself and grow yourself,
Right.
this is a thing that happens.
I don't know if it has to do with being Latino. I think that's a dude thing.
I think that could be a dude thing too, but
of
it's like
of like, oh,
Yeah,
this guy knows all
this
this
toxic
stuff. Huh?
masculinity,
Yeah,
like this ties in together like machismo stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And like there's layers, right? And,
Right.
and I don't have all the answers, obviously, but I've had to peel back all these layers just to get to the point where like, hey, I do a thing, just to say I do a thing
Yeah,
with other people.
yeah.
And I think this isn't unique in our community.
No, it's hard for me to go up to people who I'm like, oh man, these guys are really good at what they do. Like if somebody's really good and I feel like they're really good, even if they're not that good,
Yeah.
I have a hard time being like, oh, I'm on this level, even if I am, or even if I'm past it.
But this is a community. We're in a community, and the people that do this stuff that are at least cool, they just want to talk and share. And some of these people just want to even give you opportunities because they can't do them or they're busy.
Yeah.
Like when I was trying to fix up my garage to put my laser in there, like I my laser,
Freaking laser beam.
put my laser cutter in there. I met up with this guy to buy a Husky table that has drawers and stuff for cheaper than it was for new. And Latino dude, he was working, I forgot what he was doing. I think he was like tow truck driver, something that he was just tired of. He's just beholden to other people. And that could be fine if it works for you. But he's like, you know why I started buying tools? Just because I went to go buy that table. He's like, I started buying tools. I started buying more tools and being a handyman for people. And I got kind of good at it. And now I'm busy. And he's like, and look at all my tools. Like he showed me. And he also like fixes washers and dryers on the side. His whole garage, and he lives in apartments. His whole garage was racks of tools and washers and dryers he was repairing.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to hire my family.
That's awesome.
And like, good for that guy. Like, but all because I was willing to just start looking into this. I have this guy's card. Who knows, you know? But it's like, that's another Latino dude that's like, and he talked about it. He's like, it's kind of weird, but I'm trying to tell my family, like, you can do these things. You could start small.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to become everything. But I don't know. I feel like I'm preaching too much, but it's like,
No, you're doing good.
but this is a normal dude. I'm normal. Like, I'm not like the work I do on my day job. I'm not the most talented person. Trust me, but I have a skill set, and it can translate to other things. Like I want to make merch. Making merch is going to be a lot easier for me because I work with machines. I've been working with machines,
Right.
and you don't realize how much your talents translate into other things. If you do graphic design, if you do video editing, like you don't realize how many other types of people you could work with.
For sure.
It's once you start seeing it that way, you don't realize how overwhelming it is to even just find the right path. Like, and not to like scare you, but to me that's a positive thing too. Instead of like seeing no possibilities, you can start seeing it everywhere.
Right. And like, I think to a point, to your point, I have a homie who he went to college and stuff and he paid for college to acquire this skill. And then he's trying to find work and it's like, he's like, oh man, I haven't been able to find a job doing this thing. And I'm like, while you're doing that, you should also be utilizing your skill and just doing the thing that you paid. Like you can build like a showcase or like a portfolio by just doing the thing that you're talented in.
Yeah.
Like figure out stuff you want to do it about before you get paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and you don't have to create a whole business, but maybe you want to. Like, graphic designers, like, they feel replaceable. Until they're really talented, they feel pretty replaceable, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like, and they're still very important, but it's like,
I honestly think that's another thing of like a part of where you work.
yeah.
Like, because I know the graphic designers and people that work in like big corporations and they feel replaceable.
Yeah.
They feel like disposable.
Yeah.
But I work for kind of a mom and pop business and I do graphic design and I feel untouchable.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, I need this thing because of this and it has nothing to do with my job.
But yeah, and it's like, you could, whatever you've chosen, there's more than one path.
For sure.
Like you're saying.
For sure. And the way that you can get those opportunities is just by presenting yourself as the person just for the job you want, kind of a thing.
Maybe I've even bad at it. They still want to talk to you.
100%. And even if you like you're gonna think you're bad at everything.
Yeah.
All the time. I think I'm bad at everything I do. I hate this painting behind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I took it down though, and somebody was like, "Where's your painting at?"
Yep.
And I was like, "I guess I'll put it back up."
I kind of hate it. They're like, no.
Yeah. Basically.
And the thing is,
it's not really a painting.
there's way more people. Yeah, it's like,
it's all right.
yeah, it's cool.
It's just-
It is cool. It makes me think of like Full Metal Alchemist a little bit. But I've noticed the more I've done stuff, like I've done manufacturing and comedy specifically, it's interesting how many people won't tell you you're good.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure.
They won't. you'll hear the negative. Human brains are wired to hear the negative, but there's so many people that are waiting to. I don't want to be like this, like motivational speaker. There's so many people that are holding back on waiting to tell you you're good at stuff.
Yeah, for sure, because they don't know how to come off as not a fan or
Yeah,
weird or something.
they feel uncomfortable.
It happens to me. I was going to mention it a few seconds ago. It happens to me. I get self-conscious in talking to. You guys know Alec Castillo?
Yeah.
He does these animations and
Yeah.
he does all this stuff, and I'm pretty decent with those kind of edits. You know what I mean? And I could do that kind of stuff. And every now and then I'll go and like. Be like, oh, you do some animation stuff, and he'll be like, yeah, but like, I don't know, he doesn't know who I am, or he doesn't know anything about what I do. So I don't want to be like, dude, I do this too, you know what I mean? But so it just gets awkward, and it just gets
and
like
I think
me
people
being
are
awkward.
really afraid of that.
Yeah,
But
for sure happens.
like
to
you're
me.
saying, there's so many people that want to tell you you're good and won't do it because they think you are too good. They think they're not good at, like, it's weird. There's just, in fact, sometimes that's even more of a sign that you're good at something when people aren't really telling you.
Yeah.
It's also gets into delusional thinking. Be careful.
Yeah.
But
Everyone thinks I'm better than them. That's why they don't talk to me. That's why they don't talk to me.
That's how you know it's bad. But when when a few people start telling you that you're good at something, there's a lot of other people that didn't because they already thought you knew, or they're uncomfortable to go tell you.
It's not even just like the struggles inward. It's also like even when you are good at it, especially. And I think this is part of like why we were bringing it up, especially when you're a minority or marginalized group. There's still an internal bias that you're facing from other people.
Definitely.
Like, sometimes I am lucky enough to have developed my comedy around other Latinos, but there have been times where like it's slow and I have to wait for someone to like do a minority show or do a Latino show, and that's frustrating because I think a lot of Latinos in any like specialty group, but my personal experiences through comedy, I think a lot of Latino comedians also find that frustrating, where it's like, I am Latino, but I'm not. That's not like the central. That's not where my comedy is centralized. Like, it's just my experience. I happen to be Latino,
Right.
And I think that can, the same thing can be said in a lot of other like I do. It's a side hustle. I do clown work. I balloon fold, and I'm learning to face paint. But I don't look like the ones that are actively being hired in the community. Like, I don't want it to sound like I'm coming up with excuses for why I'm not getting work sometimes, but it is a thing that is an unconscious bias.
Yeah, because they attribute legitimacy for like whiteness a lot of times.
Like, there's so many outlets and areas of expertise where people will straight up think that they didn't know Latinos were into that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
for even when I was starting up, there was a lot of people talking about how people were like, well, Latinos just aren't into comedy the way and they were getting that because like comedy is a growing thing in South America and Central America.
And honestly, I'll be honest, for me, like, I didn't really like that many Latino comedians. So
Right.
like, I always felt like I never like when people use random stuff as a crutch. And race to me was a crutch topic for comedy when I was growing up.
Right.
So like the era of like Carlos Mencia and George Lopez, I didn't really like, care for it because I was like, they literally can't talk about anything else. I was like, this is all they got.
That was something I was saying about that weird aura out of the 90s and 2000s, heading into the late 2000s, where before we were trying to blend, and then suddenly it was the thing to have groups, to have special, all Latino specials, to have like Def Comedy Jam. I mean, for a different community, but everyone was doing that, and the problem with that was that you would only be accepted if you were matching the niche that they were selling.
Right.
And that's why, like, no disrespect to Carlo Mencia and the work that he put into his career, but also
Some disrespect.
It was a thing of like he. I don't think he was the perpetuator of this standard, but he was the result of that set.
Definitely a
standard of, like-
symptom.
Like even
Yeah.
his like controversies
He
and
was
all
the result.
all that bad stuff about him aside, like I remember a distinct moment of my friend being like, "You gotta see this," a Mexican friend,
Yeah.
and showing it to me, and like it was like that bit of like him sticking his tongue through the tortilla and being like, "Dun, dun, dun, tortilla." I was like, this is not for me. I was like,
I'm cultured.
I mean, man, or maybe I'm uncultured. I was like, I hate this. I do not like this.
But it's what you were talking about earlier is like that was a way of assimilating of like, well, this is what you think of me. Like
Yeah, that's true.
Like there's the other side of that where like literally Mitzi Shore kind of coached him into being that.
Right.
And I don't mean to like shit on Comedy Store royalty, but it's like that's what wrestling was. That's what wrestling kind of still is.
I was about to say it still kind of hasn't changed much because like
Yeah.
we got people like, oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, Uncle.
Roger.
Yes, I want to.
But he doesn't have an accent.
He does have an accent, but it's just really light.
Oh,
like,
I
and he's
see.
lost it since he's been here. But when he was a kid, like, he was like,
But
I
then
just saw
plays-
an interview with him. He was like, when I was a kid, that's how I used to talk.
Yeah.
He's like, but this character is like somebody I know. It's not like I'm making stereotypes. He's like, these are people. These are things that I've experienced.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. And I get that. And there is still a niche for that. Obviously, like people are making successful careers. I don't want to use the word pandering.
Well, there's always a hot debate there, right?
Yeah.
Because some people are doing that.
Is pandering always bad? A negative term? It's a negative term. There's still a market for somebody like finding a niche group of people to direct their jokes.
So I think there's a very nuanced argument. That might be a whole different episode.
Right.
But we're talking about like the Kendrick Drake stuff, right? And this ties in a little bit of like when you utilize that to what am I trying to say here? When you utilize a thing, even you're a part of, to live something inauthentically, that's bad, right?
Right.
I'm not saying Uncle Roger's doing that, but there's a nuanced take where, like, if you use this and twist it to a place where, like, people don't even know who you are, if you're playing a fake, I don't know.
I understand
it's
what you're
hard.
saying. It's hard because like he's literally doing a fake character. Like
Yeah.
he's literally playing a Uncle Roger.
Yeah.
He's literally playing a character, but he's basing that character on outwardly what would seem to me, what I thought originally was that it was like a bunch of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Or like kind of like I guess like Larry the Cable Guy. Is that a good example?
I think that is a good example. Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was just
he's
thinking
acting
of.
like a stereotype of a caricature that we all recognize, and probably using real world examples to draw from, but it's not really him.
Yeah.
It's not really authentic, but people eat it up.
Yeah, and it's not for me.
That's what I said about Carlos Mencia. Like, this just isn't for me. Like,
Yeah.
my homie loved it. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
dying, cackling. Not to say he's dumb or anything, or he's an idiot
yeah.
or stupid.
He is, but
No, yeah, that's what I was trying to keep going on. No, I'm just kidding. He's an intelligent guy.
But I know there's like a harder, nuanced conversation. I think there's some people that are kind of getting into the grift territory,
Right.
but I think that's also should be kind of allowed because there's people in that community that do love it. You're right.
And-
there are people that love it.
And it is like the other side of the coin of being like, well, we are underrepresented. And so, like, all the other comedians are just white guys.
Yeah.
Like, so even somebody sticking their tongue through a tortilla, you're like, my people.
Yeah, there's a
There
desperate
is a
time.
little bit of that. Yeah, yeah. Which I get.
I mean, it's a little different now. Like
sure.
everyone's on the come up, like artistically, right?
Right.
Like,
But it's
Yeah.
we're in the transitional stage of that. Like it's
Yeah.
still going to be a while before that's normalized.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. But there is definitely a much bigger push for authenticity these days.
yeah, and I think that's necessary until it's not. Because I think things ebb and flow sometimes naturally because authenticity needs to happen because there's like everything was fake forever.
Yeah.
Everything was fake.
I mean, and not just that, but like we're straight up disconnected from our heritage.
Yeah.
Like there's things about my heritage I straight up just don't know or
Yeah.
don't understand. Somebody could talk to me about something from Ecuador that's like everyone in Ecuador is like, duh. And I don't know because I
Yeah.
wasn't raised there. My family isn't. Even my dad isn't as connected to his. He knows about stuff, but it's not like he's well versed in the history of Ecuador or anything. You know what I mean? He's got a
Right.
job. He has to work. So, am I boring you? Sorry. What do
Yawn.
you want to talk about? No, I'm just kidding.
Trains.
I'm not Dominic.
You know, we've talked a lot about that and representation, authenticity, and I got a little like, motivational speakery about like, there's people that think you're talented, they're not telling you. But these biases are real. That's why we're pushing for authenticity. And there's
Right.
going to be challenges that you have to face that other people refuse to acknowledge or whatever, but they are real. And you have to live in your reality and learn how to navigate that. And one way to navigate that is by connecting with people in your community.
Right.
Because some of us can get into other spaces, but if you don't start working with each other, and not everyone's going to be good just because they're same skin color doesn't mean they're going to be good to you,
Yeah,
but
no.
if you build community, you could work with each other. You could give each other work and push each other to the right people because you're actually networking with people that get you or see you as valid at least.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been listening to a lot of Power 106, but I feel like I've been noticing like a lot more like Latino representation and a lot more like people not really like shying away from just talking about being Latino or having Latino experiences. Not always in my favorite way on Brown Bag Mornings on Power 106, but
It takes time.
it takes time. But I was telling Dominic about those people because my car, if my phone's Bluetooth doesn't connect right away, it just defaults to the radio and it just stays there. And sometimes I just mindlessly drive. Like I live pretty close to where I work, so I'll just drive and just listen to the radio. And there will be like the DJs from Brown Bag Morning, like Letty and I can't. Oh man, I should know everyone's name, but I don't. They'll be talking and they'll be saying things, and I'll be like, "These sound like fools that I knew when I was young that are just adults now."
Yeah, yeah,
and I was
yeah,
like, "This
yeah.
is crazy." I was like, "This is crazy."
And I've seen, and I don't mean to like drag this episode on, but there's a whole conversation on TikTok happening right now about the types of Latino creators that are getting traction.
Right.
And it's like, and not to speak ill of anybody or tear people down, but it's like, there's a lot of talented, creative people that have a lot to offer, and it's fools that are like, is it cheating if he texts her back? It's just like, that's all valid,
Yeah.
but it's like, and of course that has its place, but that's a lot of that, like, where's the stuff that builds us up is what I'm trying to say. Where's the stuff that like builds community, businesses, opportunity, art?
Right. I mean, there's a lot to say about the common man's interest. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? The everyman has a lot of,
Red pill and
sometimes it's not even always like red pill. Like I
Yeah.
just mean like the middle of the road person.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the kind of content they're consuming
it's
is
like it's
regular.
rage bait. Like
Right,
we all
for
get
sure,
pulled
for
into
sure.
like rage bait and just like controversial stuff.
sure.
And that's really what I'm talking down about. And it's like, where's all this stuff that like, it doesn't have to be fake positive, but it's like, where's the stuff that adds growth and challenge?
That's true. That's true. And a lot of that comes with just like working on yourself, working on keeping your garden. What do they say? Like
Water your grass? Like, yeah.
No, I mean like if you tend your own garden,
Yeah.
then like the whole world will look better if everyone just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if
Okay,
that's relevant.
look, you sound like an HOA leader here, but I
That's
know what
fine.
you're saying.
Yeah. If you just cut your grass, then we won't have to fine you.
And take down that Mexican flag.
That's crazy if somebody said that.
but yeah, and it's something I've been thinking about, and part of why I wasn't talking about this stuff until now is because I doubt my validity in these spaces. I doubt if I'm the right person to talk about this, but I don't have to be the only one. That's what I'm realizing. Like, I'm so concerned that I'm not the right person that why don't I just say this and let people find the right one? Let people come forward. Like, it's not like I gave you permission and now you can do it. It's like, but if I can do it, I'm a coward and I'm saying this stuff, What about these other people that have a lot to offer and actually have education and more experience and time in these fields?
Yeah, that happens to me. That happens to me sometimes, like because I'll talk to other like people and they'll be like, "Oh, I went to this school. I learned how to do art in this thing, and I did this." And I'm like, I dropped out of high school.
There's this one chick, Marlene Ramir. She I'm forgetting all the details, but she was in higher education. She went to like an Ivy League school, if I remember correctly, and she talks about assimilation, intersectionality, being Latina, and like predominantly white affluent spaces. And it's like, these are important things that also matter. I'm not saying this is the only thing that matters, but it's like I don't want to pretend like I'm a part of it, but there's Latinos reaching these spaces, and they have a lot to share with us about what reality's like.
Yeah, and that's why it's important. I think that's why it's going to be growing going forward. I guess it's going to be more and more important that we do self-identify, that we do declare that we're Latinos, and that we're doing these things, and not being like, "Oh, I'm Latino, you have to listen to me," or whatever.
No, yeah.
But just making it known so that we can look at each other and be like, "Oh, my people."
Oh, yeah, they had a good point. Did they have a good point?
Right. This guy's an idiot.
This is true for them, but maybe not for me. Just all of that is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to a thing I've said before. I think when we had our comic book episode a long time ago, of like it's going to come from both aspects, not only from within the community, but also advocating for it to be accepted outside the community. Of like, A, being confident that you deserve to be here, and B, allowing space, for that to grow. Like, it's kind of hard to say that I'm speaking to not Latinos right now, but like normalizing that anyone can like anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I don't mean cultural appropriation, whole different conversation. But like, Latinos like punk rock, Latinos like sci-fi, Latinos,
Yeah, just because some of my interests or my skills are pretty Latino, like manufacturing. That's what we get pulled into. It doesn't have to be that, like you're saying.
I just saw a TikTok from a white guy who's from the Midwest, and he was a DJ, and he moved out to LA, and he was like, "Hey, genuine question, what's up with all these like really tough Latino dudes like asking me to play Morrissey and like and like
so funny."
Yeah. He was like, they like really like sad songs. He was like, but songs that you normally identify with like emo white guys.
Yeah.
He was like, why do these like really like gangster, tough looking? I don't think he used the word gangster, but we know what he meant.
Yeah.
Did you tell them it's because they just want to be loved?
That's what a lot of people were commenting in there, but like in Latino culture, dude, you're ashamed if you cry, or you're not allowed to not look tough. So when we hear somebody expressing their emotions, we identify with it, and we like it.
Yeah, some of the hardest fools liked me when I was like vulnerable.
yeah, that's funny. And then like the biggest gangsters, their favorite kind of music is oldies.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
They listen to like.
They just want a good excuse to. Like, hey, I wouldn't cry, but this song was too good.
Yeah. I am your puppet. Sorry.
Play with my strings.
Well, this has been a fun conversation. If you've made it this far, thank you for that. We love you. Let us know in the comments what's something you do that breaks the monolith of Latino. You know what I mean? Whether it's crocheting, whether it's with woodworking. What's your special niche? What's your special interest?
We're still in the vein of Latino stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say crocheting and woodworking are like two of the.
No, you're absolutely right. 3D printing.
Okay. It's kind of difficult. That's what I'm trying to
because
say.
we do fucking everything. That's the thing.
True.
We do everything.
That's the thing, is that we're a multi-genre people because we don't get marketed to directly, so we pick off of everyone else's stuff.
What's your favorite Morrissey song?
That's
and from
good.
us, un poquito. Don't cry.
That's